Language is the foundation and key component of communication. If there is any weakness in an individual's language development, their ability to communicate will be less effective. For language to develop fully, certain aspects must fall into place and be intact. We will focus on the biological aspects of language, such as sensory and motor abilities, neurological status, and atomic structure. These all play a key role in the development of language. Sensory abilities, such as normal vision and hearing, allow an individual to begin to associate spoken language with the symbols they represent. Also, these sensory abilities show the pragmatics or the social uses of language. If sensory abilities are not fully functioning, an individual's ability to comprehend the abstract symbol system of language will be affected, inhibiting the effectiveness of their communication. Also, without the proper understanding of pragmatics, communication by the individual may be deemed inappropriate in certain social situations. Motor abilities address an individual's ability to properly control the systems used in communication. These systems are the respiratory, phonatory, resonation, and articulation systems. In the respiratory system, air flows through the mouth and nose, down through the pharynx, trachea, bronchial tubes, until it reaches the lungs, inflating them and being released to travel upwards. The exhaled air reaches the larynx. Here, the air is modified by forcefully pushing past the vocals, causing them to open and close, resulting in vibrations of the folds. These vibrations create a basic sound which begins the phonatory system. Though phonation is caused by the vibration of the vocal folds, the entire phonation system relies on the synchronization of muscles, organs, and structures throughout the upper region of the body. The main organ of the system is the larynx, with a pair of muscle tissue on either side of the top of the larynx, which creates the vocal folds. The key muscles in voice production. The now modified air leaves the folds, more modification occurs in the pharynx, mouth, and nasal cavity. The step is known as resonation. Resonation is defined as the process wherein certain frequencies in the laryngeal tones are reinforced or emphasized depending upon the size and shape of the speech resonator, thus giving each individual different voice qualities.
Ew, my God, you really do talk like that. I would make this up.
The articulation system is the third and final modification of the breath. The final modification is called articulation, which is the shaping, molding, stopping, and releasing of voiced and non-voiced sounds. This is done by the articulators located in the oral cavity, lips, mandible, tongue, soft palate, larynx, pharynx, teeth, alveolar ridge, and the hard palate. The two parts of this system are known as the manner and place of articulation. The manner describes how the airflow is altered, while the place describes whether the air is altered and what articulators factor into the modification. The synchronized function of all systems allow for vocal communication to occur. Difficulty controlling these systems can result in limited, if any, intelligibility of the individual. The neurological status of an individual not only determines how the individual is able to control their motor functions, but also determines how they develop language. Language is a complex skill requiring the combined function of various systems and the ability to interpret and assess the surrounding environment. As well, language is a very abstract system. For example, the word elephant symbolizes a very large gray mammal that lives in Africa. The word elephant itself does not look like the animal, while the word spoken aloud also does not resemble the animal. An individual's ability to associate the abstract symbol with the physical object requires full neurological functioning. As well as language being a system of abstract symbols, language is also governed by laws about combining and structure of sounds to represent those symbols.
Its and its are two different words. One is possessive and the other is not heard.
Phonology dictates the combining of sounds to make words. The smallest unit of sound is a phoneme. Phonology has rules regulating the combination of certain phonemes.
A, B, D, F, G, H, J, U, N.
Morphology deals with morphemes, the smallest unit of a language to hold meaning. There are two types of morphemes, bound and unbound. Bound morphemes are the tense makers, as well as prefixes and suffixes. Unbound morphemes are whole words that have meaning by themselves, such as boy, cat, or giraffe. Pragmatics is the rules governing the correct use of language in various social situations.
Hey, weirdos, go, or else I'm gonna come out and punch your car so you'll go.
Hello? 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 Oh, really? Hello? Hello? Are you listening to me?
Semantics is the component.
Heck, I was happy on a short-legged fat pony and a high field of oats.
This boy's making more noise than a couple of skeletons throwing a fit on a tin roof. Pay attention to me, boy. I'm not just talking to hear my head roar. Smart boy, got a mind like a steel trap, full of mice.
Syntax governs how words are combined to form sentences in an acceptable order. Without the proper language development, an individual's syntax would have no logical reason.
I saw a flock of moosin. There are many of them, much moosin. Out in the woods, in the woodsin. The meat's wanting the food. Food is to eating, is it? The meat's wanting the food and in the wooding in, is it? And the food in the wooding, is it?
The brain deals with the comprehending and interpreting these rules, the relationship between words and symbols, and the regulation of the systems involved in language. If an individual is born with poor neurological functions or acquires damage to the brain, their ability to communicate or even to understand language will be impeded. Anatomic structures such as muscles, organs, and articulators are needed to correctly modify sound for an individual to participate in oral communication. Because language is a highly complex process, any small biological issue may have a great impact on communication. Communication disorders caused by the lapse in proper language development affect various modes of communication. We will focus on the written and oral forms of communication, specific to an individual's ability to read and write with the presence of a communication disorder. Communication disorders caused by these breakdowns can have a significant impact on a person's ability to read and write.
Confections are special little suckers, unlike the treatment of other.
Motor speech disorders affect an individual's ability to properly communicate due to their lack of control of the motor skills needed to effectively communicate. For example, flaccid dysarthria causes an individual to have weak muscle tone, slurred and unintelligible speech. This makes it hard for the individual to properly mold and shape the airflow to create sounds, to create the words needed for communication.
But the king and queen were not happy. There were no little children
In school children, this sort of communication disorder affects their intelligibility as well as their self-confidence. The child may fully comprehend what they have read, others may not. The negative feelings that children direct towards themselves can affect their involvement in class and their overall classroom behavior. Other diseases, such as cerebral palsy, may affect the understanding and interpreting of communication. While researchers have found that 30 to 40% of children with cerebral palsy have average or above average intelligence, children with cerebral palsy do have neurological damage. Depending on the individual patient and their neurological impairment, their ability to understand and evaluate the complex and abstract nature of communication may be impaired. Some may possess good enough motor skills to establish some basic phonology while reading, but lack the comprehension of what they have just read and what each word symbolizes.
Leanna is a spunky 10-year-old little girl who has cerebral palsy. Although she is not able to speak her thoughts verbally, she is very expressive with her face and especially her eyes.
While written communication depends on different motor functions, the underlying knowledge of language is still necessary. Without this baseline, the syntax, morphology, phonology, and semantics of the individual's writing may be incorrect.